Course is about bio-inspired materials, and so how we can design better materials using ideas and strategies from nature. So, uh, so we would continue from our previous discussion about the structural origin of the mechanical properties in biological materials, and the idea of learning about the various structures in nature is to understand how we can apply known engineering principles such as fracture mechanics or fracture propagation to these materials and understand why these materials exhibit those unique properties so that we can then apply those ideas and design better materials. So a quick recap of the previous discussion. We discussed about the composite structure of a marine shell, and we sort of reasoned out why it exhibits both strength and toughness, and the reason for that is crack deflection as well as branching of the crack into complex parts, which basically prevents this material from failing completely. Okay, so today we are going to apply this idea to a completely different material. Now, we all know that glass is a super brittle material, and if you drop your cell phone or whatever, it immediately cracks. So what happens is the crack essentially spreads out in all directions. Now, think about these biological materials to our right. These are all made of glass. Okay? And these are super small structures, and you know what? These materials are actually sort of underwater. So there is this Venus flower basket which is actually anchored to the base of ocean or whatever. So all these creatures are, they dwell underwater, and they have a body that is made of the same material that glass is made of, which is essentially silica. Okay. Now let's understand what makes them tougher. So we all know, we have been taught in engineering that the reason why materials fail is because they have these micro cracks. So they have what is called micro cracks, and when we have this small crack at the center and that spreads out, so when we pull this material on both directions, the crack basically spreads out, and it takes all those micro cracks in its wake, and that's how the crack becomes larger and larger. Okay. Now think about, and that actually leads to the ultimate failure of that material. Okay. Now this is the case of a biological material where we have a regular network of pores that we saw previously. Now, can anybody tell me what happens when the crack propagates?
It's localized.
Localized, okay.
Meditation by the organic layers, surrounded by these, surrounded the ceramic component.
Right. Okay, one thing, there are no organic layers here. So there is a network of what we call pores. So this is basically void. There is no material here. The organic layer was actually in the case of nacre. But this is a totally different case.
Yeah, only one, Steve Bauer was saying that only one breaks.
Yes, exactly. So what essentially happens is when this crack starts spreading out, it exhibits the same phenomena. It starts enlarging, it starts taking all those micro cracks inside, but eventually that crack energy dissipates, because when it comes to these walls, the energy basically dissipates. Okay, and that's how that energy does not make its way through the entire matrix of that material, and that's why it does not fail. Okay, now let's apply this understanding to a totally different case. So we have these lizards which can climb walls. Okay, we have seen these lizards climbing wall, and the reason why they do that is because they have these very fine structures on their toe pad. All right. So imagine that we have these kind of structures on the toe pad of a lizard, and this is basically the rough surface of a wall. Now you apply that idea of crack propagation and explain to me how this adhesion is maintained. So there is basically, because of these kind of structures, adhesion is maintained between these minute structures with respect to the wall. But the geckos could have used a continuous material anchored to the surface of wall and could have possibly achieved adhesion. But why they chose these kind of materials?